Welcome to this training tutorial of the Magellan authoring tool. This tutorial covers the basics in creating and testing activities. In this tutorial, we are going to present the definition of an activity, types of activities, how to create an activity, and how to debug or test an activity. In the first tutorial, we created a new project called Treasure Hunter. Open this project now in the Magellan program. Let's start with the definition of the term activity in the context of the Magellan authoring tool. An activity is defined as a specific category of assets that represents short-duration steps in the game logic that require interaction with the player. Activities can be linked together to create an activity flow describing the game scenario. By default, all activities are presented to the author as a blue box in the game scenario editor. The color of the box can be edited in the scenario editor by right-clicking on the activity box. Each activity has an interface that consists of one control input, which triggers the activity, and two outputs that represent success colored in green and failure colored in red. An icon, the activity type, and the activity name are displayed in each activity box. When the author drags and drops an activity node item on the graph, a contextual menu appears and asks the author what kind of node he wants to create. So now, let's look at the different types of activities that are available. Basic activities include Select Role activity. A select role activity is used as a login point to allow the player to select their team and role in the game. Media Player activity. A media player activity allows the author to play multimedia content such as video or audio assets. To configure it, simply drag and drop a media asset from the asset library to the asset input of the activity. QR code activity. A QR code activity is used to allow the player to scan a QR code to trigger further action in the game. Message activity. A message activity is a simple informative activity that is used to display messages to the player. It can display one optional image, one optional text, and two optional buttons, triggering respectively the success and the failure outputs of the activity. The button text and icon can be customized as well as the style of the message activity. Question activity. A question activity allows the author of the game to ask a question to the player. It can be configured by the author by setting a question and adding as many options as he wants. Each answer can trigger a different output in the scenario graph. This activity requires interaction with the player and can be used to create different branches in the game logic graph. Weather activity. The weather activity gives the weather at a given location. This activity is connected to a weather server and requests the current weather whenever the activity is launched. Puzzle game activity. A puzzle game activity is used to define jigsaw puzzles from a user-defined image. The player has to put the pieces of the puzzle back together by dragging and dropping them in position. The author can customize both the image and the number of pieces. Geolocalization activities include Proximity activity. A proximity activity displays a gauge indicating how far the participant is from a set of items. Compass activity. A compass activity displays an image having always its top border oriented to the real north direction. Usually, the image given to the activity is an image of a compass with a top-oriented north direction. Note that this activity can only be used if a mobile device has a compass sensor. You can configure the activity compass image, the background image, the button background image, and text of the activity by dragging and dropping an asset in the corresponding field of the attribute editor. There are also a number of advanced activities, such as 3D activities, including G-activity, Panorama and 3D activity, View Map activity, View 360 activity, and AR activity. Network activities, including lobby and trading activity. Generic activities, including HTML, QML, and branching point activities. And BLE debug activity. Since these are advanced options, we will present them at a later stage. Let's move on to discuss how to insert a message and a select role activity in the treasure hunter game. To create a new activity in the scenario editor, the author can choose to either drag and drop an activity from the side menu or to right-click on the workspace in the editor and select the activity to be created. The author can also copy and paste an existing activity in the scenario editor. Now let's create a message activity. Select from the basics the message activity. Then go to the selection editor and type in the message that you want to be displayed. Let's type in "Welcome to the Treasure Hunter game." We can also add a picture which will be displayed together with the message. To do that, just drag and drop the image treasure hunt from your laptop's file to the asset library. Then drag and drop the image from the asset library to the icon space of the selection editor. Now let's create a select role activity. Go to Basic Activities and select the Select Role activity. Let's define a team for our treasure hunter game. Click on the workspace in the scenario editor and use the selection editor to define a team called Pirates and a team called Treasure Hunters. When you click on the Teams button in the selection editor, you are prompted with a dialog box. In the text box next to Create, type in the name of the teams you want to create, in this case Pirates and Treasure Hunters. Then click on the plus sign to create the teams. The player should now have the option to select the Pirates or Treasure Hunters team to play the game. Once you have created the message and the select role activity, you must connect them to the starting point, signified by the green box, or to an output already connected with the logic of the game, such as another activity for it to function. Once you have connected the activities within your scenario, you need to check if they are working as intended. The Magellan authoring tool offers a debugging or testing option to allow authors to visualize a game without having to export it first. The author can test the current state of the game by clicking on the Play Simulation button that is located on the main toolbar. By pressing this button, the starting point of the game is triggered and continues to activate the first activity. The author can view the emulated game via the mobile view window, which overlays the map view once the Play Simulation button is pressed. Using this feature allows the author to test the running activity of the game and to highlight any broken connections or errors in the game. To stop the testing feature, the Stop Simulation button on the main toolbar should be pressed. This ends our tutorial on how to create and test your own message and select role activities. Thank you for watching.